Hello and welcome to the Central Podcast, a little coffee and a whole lot of Jesus. But it looks like I have more than a little coffee though, honestly. That's a large mug.
It's all perspective.
I wish there was coffee in it.
How much coffee do you drink a day? I am curious.
I drink decaf, if you want to believe that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so proud of you.
I have switched over to decaf a few months back. I don't like it. I prefer the calf, but the decaf's where I'm at right now.
Well, then why drink it? I'm just curious.
Because after years of having, that in the morning, the first,
it's the habit.
And you have to have it to drink something. And so I just went with, it's warm, it's creamy. There's also cream in there.
Part of your routine.
It's the routine. So how do you not have it?
It's like taking a hot shower in the morning for me. I can't wake up if I don't have a shower.
So when I wake up, my first job is to make her a cup of coffee. That's the first thing I do every day. So I go make her. So how am I going to make her one and just not make myself another cup of coffee?
All you have to do is bring me a cup of water.
You want a cup of water every day?
Every morning.
every morning.
We're talking about relationships,
That's
so this is
exactly
good right now. We'll just work on hours right now, okay?
That's it. There we go.
It's worked out great. We already learned
I'm not a
something.
coffee person, but I'll take that water any day.
Okay.
That's right. So I do the coffee thing, so that's why I do it. So we are sitting here with my sister, my wife, number one.
Yes.
To my left, Pastor Annette. Then to my further left, my sister, Kendra Kelly Dean.
Yes, I'm his favorite sibling.
Yeah, Shannon won't probably watch this, so yeah, I'm sure we'll say that then.
Uncle will never.
Shannon, he'll never watch.
But I'm the only sister. Yes. So,
And was the youngest of the group. So let's just get this straight. I am the eldest. She's the youngest, which means.
However, I am the only daughter. So actually, I may be the baby, but I have firstborn tendencies because I'm the firstborn daughter. Now you see the struggle between the two of us. Okay.
Years worth.
I'm just going to say it's good to be the baby, and he's been trained well on how to deal with the baby.
There's something good with the whole
help me, Jesus. Which is why I bring her coffee every morning. It's a good way to start.
And this guy over here.
And to the far left is, I'm going to be very blunt for a second and just say this.
He's handsome. I know he is. I'll say it
That's what I was going to say. I'll just be blunt. I didn't like you when I first met you.
Wow.
Did not like
just
you.
Just put it out there.
Now, how long ago was that? That was like 17, 18 years ago?
That was 20 years ago.
20 years ago?
I'm sure you never picked up on that, Dyson.
We dated for 4 years.
Now, let's be fair. It is my little sister. So that's kind of a weird thing there anyway, right? So who's good enough?
For your sister.
Right. For my sister.
Of course.
I have a daughter now who's really, I'm still struggling with that. Who's good enough for her? Right?
Help us, Lord.
But I will say, I really respect you. I got to say, I respect you. You've done it.
We've grown.
You've done amazing.
As a family.
You guys are awesome. We're proud of both of you.
Time heals all.
Took me a while to get on board with it, but I'm here. You know what I'm saying? No, you guys are amazing. We're proud of both of you. It's been a pleasure to know you. So your relationship, you've been married 16 years.
Yep.
You mentioned, I think, a little something in one of our previous episodes about coming home from the honeymoon.
Yeah. The moment the wheels touched, we had a great honeymoon. We had a beautiful wedding, great honeymoon. And the moment the wheels touched down, buddy, it was over.
Yeah.
The honeymoon ended.
Well, let's back up for a second and say that both of us came from pastors' families. Mm-hmm. We dated for 4 years before we got married. We were virgins when we got married. Yeah. We, in all situations, we did everything the way that you would sit with somebody and tell them this is the way that you should do things before you get married. So we walked into the marriage very prepared, prayed up, both in church, both loved God. We did it all. But from the very start, what you can't teach somebody is maturity. If you're immature, you have to go through some battles in order to become mature.
Right.
And truthfully, I was way more immature than Kendra was. I was more of the reason for the issues that we had than Kendra was. But like Kendra said, from the moment that the wheels touched down, we had conflict and we fought about every single issue that you can possibly fight about.
So ridiculous.
We fought about money. We fought about family. We fought about time. We fought about sex. We fought about every topic under the sun.
Decor, everything.
And our fights would often become very heated. They would escalate. They would become very verbally abusive between the both of us.
Yeah.
There were a couple of occasions where we got into little mini shoving matches. We threw
a little
things.
bit of WWF in the living room.
So you're saying there was
WrestleMania in the Dean home.
Intense fellowship.
There was a lot of
intense.
Well, I mean, we're both very strong people.
Passionate people.
We're very passionate. We're very strong communicators. And so obviously we thought that meant, oh, you're not hearing me. I'll just get louder.
Right.
And
let's just be fair for a second. She grew up with 2 older brothers.
Yeah.
And the only way you got our attention was to get loud and to be somewhat boyish because you had to take
just rough. Yeah.
We're going to do all this stuff. So I'll never forget the day that I moved on from G.I. Joe. Right. And my brother, who's 3 years younger than me, who's quite the man now, obviously, but still at that time was still wanting to play G.I. Joe. And so I caught him and my sister playing in the closet one day.
Yeah, I had a Barbie and he had G.I. Joe and they were on an adventure together.
And my brother did not like the fact that I witnessed him playing G.I. Joe and Barbie with
It's not like you tormented him.
It's not like you bring it up on your podcast or anything.
All these years later,
wow.
still bring it up.
Dang.
The point being, in our house as kids, it took a lot to get attention, I think, from each other.
For sure.
We were always the important ones.
Shannon
was really stuck in the middle most of the time, I think.
Well,
he did his fair share. But what were you going to say?
But we viewed altercations very differently because Kendra grew up in a house where she didn't see her mom and dad ever fight publicly. They was always behind closed doors.
That's true.
My parents' fights were always very public, and you just said what you wanted to say, and then you just moved on, and didn't really matter if it was really mean. You just got over it. Well, I quickly found out that what you say mattered, and it had ramifications. So, needless to say, we had 2 years of fighting and trying different counselors and really being in a real mess. And on October 19th, 2007, Kendra read me a letter stating that she was filing for divorce and that I could move out of the house. The letter stunned me. I knew that we were in bad shape and we had thrown out divorce, but we had always done it in the context of anger. And I never thought in a million years that was a real thing. And so that began a 65-day separation, followed by another 10-month of separation, a total of a year separation before we got back together. So 2 years. And there's so much to tell in that. But I'll just say this, that today, God did a really great work in us in that time. We were in counseling for a year. And, we've had 14 years of really healthy marriage since that time. And today, God's used this story that we tell. We travel and we've been able to tell it literally all over America about what God has done in our hearts and in our home, because we shouldn't, by all the statistical data that exists regarding marriage today, we shouldn't be married.
Right.
But when you let God change you from the inside out, that's my story, is that while I worked on a church staff, I was anything but a righteous, godly man. And God began to do a work inside of my life. And he literally changed my life, where I'm not the same person that I was when I was 23 years old. I'm a different person today because of it.
Well, thank God that we don't have to live by what was yesterday.
No. And, and that's the thing, is being who we were, how we grew up, we didn't know who to talk to. Because we were the leaders. We were supposed to know it all.
Right. You got to know it all.
And so there's this cloud of shame that would travel over you.
Right.
And so when it blew up, it blew up. But, we made the commitment that if God was going to restore our marriage, then we would be very open and honest about how bad it was and the process that we went through. Yeah. Because if anyone ever tells you they have the perfect marriage, listen to me, run from them, because they are lying. And we all need accountability, and we can all benefit from serving our spouses better. And forgiveness, it's not easy, but it's so imperative. It is so imperative for your physical health, mental health, emotional health, and just to move forward and be the full person of the full potential that God wants you to be. And that was my issue, was I know I'm probably the only female that ever did this. I, in my head, had a great scoreboard about things that happened, right? Nice. And I would bring those up because our memory is really
Instant
good.
Replay. Instant replay. Yes, I love that.
Kendra can remember things. I'd be, she'd be like, you said da da da. I'm like, I don't remember saying, when did I say that? She's like, you said it December 12th,
we were standing in the
2008.
You were wearing a purple shirt.
She does the same thing.
Exactly.
So
I'm like,
conversation.
no. When a week passes, everything I said prior to that is void and canceled.
Exactly.
It has a time step on it.
When it's past a week, it's over with.
Yeah.
But
I'm with you on that completely.
But I think that for us as women, it's really, we can get trapped in that memory bank.
Yes.
And we have to do our best to move past that and say, look, ultimately, it's not about being right. It's about being righteous.
Yeah.
That's good. And that's the difference there. And just every day doing your best to live like Christ. And some days you'll get it good. Some days you won't. And then you won't again. But that's okay. You just keep on trying and you keep moving forward. Because we need Jesus. We're not perfect beings.
That's it.
And we can always grow and do better. And thank God for Christian counseling.
Yes.
Thank God for Christian people that were for Team Dusty and Kendra and not just Team Kendra or Team Dusty. And I think when you have relationships, you need to really think about if they're talking negative about your spouse, that's your big red flag warning sign.
Yes.
You don't need to be spending so much time with them and you really need to filter what they're saying to you. But you want to find a godly person that is willing to speak life over your marriage and speak truth to you as well.
The Bible says that there is wisdom in the multitude of wise counsel.
Yeah.
The problem with your parents and your family is they automatically become discredited
For sure.
as wise counsel whenever it regards your marriage because they can't help themselves but to be biased.
Right.
Yeah.
They love
emotionally attached to it.
They love their person so much and they want to see them win. Yeah. And so when that person is wronged, they can't help but fight for them or want
Exactly.
to. So I see this so much even today, all these years later, where we counsel dozens and dozens and dozens of couples is get your family out of your marriage and only allow one or two or three trusted advisors to speak into your marriage. And that circle's got to be small.
Exactly.
And it's probably not your coworker who can tell you, oh, well, this happened in my marriage. You don't want somebody who's in the same situation.
No.
If you're in a hole and you don't know how to dig out of the hole, you don't want the person who's in the hole with you to be telling you how to get you out of the hole. If they knew, they wouldn't be in the hole.
They wouldn't be there.
So
you got to reach up.
You want to find people who have the kind of marriage that you want to have.
Right.
Yeah.
You want to find trusted counselors.
And it's going to take work. And you both have to be willing to do that. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong. Like for our separation, it took us 2 months before we even would speak to each other. We weren't even having conversation at all. And then after that, with the first 6 months, we finally got into the same counseling room together. But for an entire year, we were going to counseling 2 times a week. There's nothing wrong with that. And a lot of times, whatever might set you off, or I like to call them triggers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has to do with pain and disappointments from way back.
Right.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with it's scary, but you can be brave and you can be courageous and you can do it because God is with you and he'll help you. But you can face that stuff and just say, God, help me heal from this. What are you growing in me? And you will be amazed at where God will take you from and what he'll take you to. And really the support system that he'll give you along the way if you're just open to it.
People often ask us this question: what do you feel like is the key to a healthy marriage? Yeah. And here's what I would say. We live in a society that teaches that we have to each do our part. Mm. You have to do 50% and I have to do 50%, and we meet in the middle. That is absolutely not the picture that Jesus paints for us in Scripture.
No, it's not.
God is asking husbands to love their wives as Christ loved the church. What does that mean? It means that Jesus gave 100% to the church when the church was giving 0%. So the test of a great marriage is not do couples do each 50-50. The question is, are they willing to do 100% while the other does 0?
Right.
Yeah,
and there were seasons of our separation where I was doing 100% and Kendra was doing 0. I'm just going to let you know that.
And I hear people screaming at me right now through the whole podcast. I can hear it. You don't know my spouse. You have no clue. I just want to encourage you, women, number one, your husband will never live up to your level of expectation, but he will live up to your level of adoration. That's so you really need to think about the words of life that you're speaking over him. When he does get it right, baby, affirm, give him a little surprise on the side. You know what I'm saying? Around the tree. Okay. And just be willing to constantly say, God, what are you showing me? How can I grow? But it's amazing what will happen when we take our eyes off of everything that's wrong, quote, unquote, with our spouse and put our eyes on God and say, you show me what I need to change.
Exactly.
And the moment that relationship and that viewpoint shifts, it is amazing the journey that he will take you on. And you can do it. Don't be afraid of it. Yeah. He's with you and you deserve it.
That's great.
Well, right. You can keep dealing with, like you mentioned, the past hurts, the way you've been dealing with them, which cause flare-ups and screaming matches and meltdowns and chaos. But it's not really doing anything productive. No. Or you can deal with it in a productive, godly way and figure out what God is really wanting to birth through this situation. And it will totally transform everything. I love that you pointed out that it's not about doing 50-50. Yeah. That ain't going to work. It's not happening.
That's the truth.
It's just a waste of time.
Because where's your 50%? I want to see your 50%.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll do my if you will just work on being the best Christian you can be. Yeah. I mean, it's just a very base of things. Just because someone's being nasty to you, you do not have to respond in like kind. Yeah. And that's hard. Because,
I had a situation. I don't know if I'm over time. You just have to tell me.
Just go ahead.
I had this situation where there was a particular person that I was trying really hard to forgive and was struggling. Imagine that. Oh yeah, I'm human. So anyway, and I remember praying, and I did well on the other people on the list, but this one individual, I struggled. And I was just crying, and I said, you know what, God, I just want to know why. Why can't I let this go? Why does this person just everything about, I just want to strangle them. How can I forgive them? And I think it's really cool that, God is your creator. He gave you your personality, and he can speak to you in only ways that you would truly understand. Yes. So as my creator spoke to me in truly a way that only I would understand, I'm asking this question to him, and all of a sudden in my mind, I get the visual of a corn dog. And I said, okay, I'm not hungry. Don't eat corn dogs. And the picture just stayed in my head. And I was like, okay, what is up with the corn dog? And he spoke to me very plainly. And he just said, Kendra, he said, I want you to think of people as corn dogs. Hang in there with me. And he said, think about the corn dog. He said, a corn dog is just like the hot dog wrapped in cornbread. I want you to realize that a human is just a soul wrapped in flesh. And every day they wake up and they try to put one foot in front of the other and live like me the best they can. And some days they do it good. Mm-hmm. And then other days they're just a corn dog and they get it wrong. You've got to let go of the corn dogs in your life.
I got mustard all
bless
over.
Them.
It's messy.
Yeah, bless them and just move forward. But that's a good word for somebody, because we have a tendency to make these things that happen to us or what people do, make it so personal and so deep embedded in our life. Yeah. When, hey, you just need to start looking at people as corn dogs and just forgive them and move on. And you know what? And I forgave that person so much easier after that.
If my wife looked at people like corn dogs, you understand, she likes her corn dogs with holes poked in them and deeply burned.
Crispy.
So she wants them crispy. So you don't want to be seen as my wife's corn dog. That would be a bad scenario for everybody. Listen, I've enjoyed this conversation. This has been really good. You had a phrase, though, I thought was really good. Something but adoration. You said something before that.
Yeah, you want to say it, baby?
Sure. Your spouse will never live to the level of your expectation. They will only live to the level of your adoration.
Affirm.
Men respond to respect. Women respond to love. It is a part of that process, right?
Mm-hmm. How we're made.
It's how we're made. Man, this is good. I've enjoyed this conversation. It is wonderful.
Well, I want to encourage you and thank you guys for sharing that. Yeah. I know a lot of times in the Christian realm, we think that, it can only be all polished and put together to be presented and delivered to help impact someone. But people don't connect with your perfection or your shininess.
No.
People connect with your heartache.
Yeah.
in your losses and how God was still there even when you felt like you lost. But if you're just willing to turn it over to him, he can take, of course, the broken and make it beautiful. I mean,
absolutely.
You guys have 2 beautiful babies.
Oh, man,
and
gorgeous.
Your church is doing incredible. And we're so proud of you guys. And just by sticking in there and trusting and
well, know this, it only takes the wrong conversation for us to go stupid, you know? And
that's everybody.
That's why all of us have to continue to work on ourselves.
Yes.
And to all the men that might be watching this, or I just want to tell you, I've never met to this day a godly woman yet who doesn't want to follow a godly man.
That's good.
There is something innately inside of every woman that wants to follow godly leadership. So if you want her to follow you, do what I say or whatever. You'll only get that by modeling healthy leadership for her.
So true. One of the cool things in one of the classes we've taught before on marriage is that if we can just, when things happen, step back for a moment and say, this is just a snapshot of what's happening in my life, in my relationship. Don't discount the entire movie. Don't discount the other 14 years that have been glorious, that have been productive and healthy. You know, that snapshot, the shutter is closed. It's time for a new one. Take in the whole movie of what God says your life is.
Perspective.
It's great.
Absolutely.
It's a great thought.
It changes everything.
Yeah.
Now you have to have a better conversation. I think one of the biggest kicks to this is learning how to have mutual submission.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things that we miss. Even in the church, not everybody understands that. They just think women submit, and they don't look at how the man is supposed to love her like the church. And then the verse before that moment says, submit yourselves one to another. There's a mutual submission that takes place. And when it's done in the godly way, then leadership can happen.
Right.
Then grace can happen. Peace, so healing. It's powerful. The Bible works, people. It just actually works. If you trust it,
it's great.
It works, right? So let's apply that. Hey, we love you guys. We're so thankful to have you with us on this long podcast, but wonderful podcast.
Sorry.
I think it was great information.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to getting my chair back. Other than that, everything is absolutely amazing today. We love you all. Here at Central Triad Church, we transform lives, produce disciples, and impact the world. God bless you. We'll talk to you soon.